1%, you know, it's not that you're being profligate. You're being jacked. It's a crime scene.
Well, no, it's loan sharking, and the IMF World Bank documents that you broke in 2002 was them internally admitting it's predatory, as if we need them to admit it to us. But here is the signed, sealed confession. But expanding on that, what do you make of Moody's, S&P, and others, all financed and run by the big 6 mega banks, or the big 5, as you call them, that, you know, Geithner said, you know, admits he serves. I want to talk about, is it 5 or 6?
Yeah.
And now they're going out, when it's the banks that are insolvent through fraud, they've gotten government to sign on to too big to fail by threatening to implode the economy, holding us hostage. And so the very people that are actually the ones that are insolvent are now telling the governments and the people we're insolvent, and have their ratings agencies that certify their crud as AAA gold now decertifying and lowering things for governments so they get higher interest rates on them. I mean, how obvious is that?
Well, look at it this way. Do you realize that the Fed window is lending money to the banks at 1/4% interest? The European Central Bank just lent out 2/3 of $1 trillion to European banks at 1% interest. They then turn around and invested in government bonds, which are guaranteed by you and me, at 4%, 5%, and 6%. That's a good business. Not investing in housing, not investing in businesses, not investing in building the economy. They're literally taking our money at 1/4 to 1% interest and returning and literally picking up 200-300% returns. It is astonishing. It's just a churn of this cash. American banks today went from $2 billion in cash reserve assets in 2007 to nearly $2 trillion today. $2 billion to $2 trillion. They're sitting on cash. Where they get the cash? They got it from you and me, from the open Fed window.
And then they lectured us about how we're lazy scum, and they got to turn the street lights off, and we got to pay more taxes because we're lazy, and they got to take the police and firemen's pension funds because that's welfare now too. Total bull, and their plan is to bankrupt us. It's amazing. The book is Vulture's Picnic. Excellent. Available at bookstores everywhere, gregpalast.com. I'm going to give the toll-free number out to discuss what's happening in Greece, to discuss what's happening here in the United States, because you better believe, you think this recession going into depression is bad, the bankers on record say they plan on imploding us, because then they buy stuff up even cheaper. They mass all the wealth, have government regulators shut down their competition. I've got to call this fascism, but because it's global, people go, but isn't fascism nationalistic? The manifestation of fascism in the 30s and 40s was. This is not. What would you call this, Greg Palast? Corporate fascism or corporate crony kleptocracyism? What's your term?
The answer would be yes on that. Actually, the technical term meaning of fascism, and I've read Mussolini's works, by the way, is a combination of government and corporate governance, which they consider good, as they say, wealth creators taking over. Yeah, technically it is fascism, because when you have banks appoint the presidents, that's the actual technical definition of fascism. So indeed, that's what it is. What we have in Greece, and what we're going to see here when they're getting rid of so-called entitlements. And by the way, the reason they're called entitlements is you're entitled to it. You paid insurance you've paid for your Social Security. That happens to be your account. You've paid for your Medicare. That's an insurance plan.
Well, they announced 2 weeks ago they've already raided most of the federal pension funds and put IOUs in there. I mean, this is going to destroy total confidence. And in their plan, as you know, Greg, it doesn't even get us out of the hole. It's designed to impoverish us.
Yes, and in fact, what we see in Europe now is that the guys who set the fire, like I say, Greece is a crime scene. We see it in Italy, Portugal, Spain. Now it's moving into Finland, Hungary, and across to the UK, Ireland. What's happening is the guys who set the fires are picking up all the property at the fire sales. I mean, the Germans right now, German industries and the wealthy of Germany are doing to Greece what their Panzer divisions couldn't do, which is basically a full-scale takeover.
Well, they're right, so, and the Greeks are pointing that out. But you're absolutely right. They're doing through economic conquest and by a stealthier mode what Napoleon couldn't do.
Yeah, and what we're going to see in the U.S. Is privatizations. We just saw today both parties in Congress have agreed to put up spectrum for sale to AT&T, Verizon. The big boys will own the entire spectrum. It used to be public airwaves. It was something we own, and the reason is that we are have a desperate deficit problem. So we're going to be selling off the family jewels.
In the high def radio spectrum that opened up dozens and dozens of channel spaces in talk radio, this is something I know about. They're giving almost none of them to even local mom and pops or community stations. It's all to the mega corporations to put canned comedy on or nothing. I mean, so absolutely that's happening as well, and they will not give it to local community stations.
Yeah, and a lot of it is you're going to see secure private corporate networks, like the Koch Industries has its own secure communication system. So you're going to see basically corporations set up kind of an internal communications and intelligence operations of their own. And that's where the spectrum will go. It's but again, they're selling off public property, public right. How else are you going to keep the banks on this churn? As I said, and when we talk about the destruction being part of the plan, as I said, when I got these documents from inside the IMF and the World Bank and the WTO, which I show in Vulture's Picnic, I didn't just say, it could have been junk. It could have been made up stuff that I pulled off some crazy site or something, but it wasn't. I got it inside, but I had to get it confirmed. I went to the head of the WTO, Pascal Lamy, and he confirmed the authenticity of my documents. So did Joe Stiglitz, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, who was chief economist for the World Bank. He didn't give me any documents, but he was willing to confirm their authenticity, and I took them even to some heads of state. And one of the things that I went over with Stiglitz, which shocked me, it said it looks like they're actually figuring on destruction and riots in these plans. Like if there are riots, like we had in Greece, the bank burnings, like we had in Argentina, riots in the streets, in Ecuador, that then gives the excuse to bring the tanks into the street. There's repression. There's then a caretaker, so-called caretaker government, in other words, appointed government. Then they sell off the properties. So it's kind of in the plan, the destruction.
Well, yeah, that drives down the prices, and it's all right there in the plan. And they're announcing global private corporate government where they appoint your leaders in Italy, in Greece. They're moving towards that in Ireland. They tried that in Iceland. I want to ask you about Iceland when we get back. I want to look at the war front, internet censorship, and calls. Straight ahead with Greg Palast. I'm Alex Jones. Okay, we got some big Ron Paul news, and then we're going right back to our guest and your phone calls. Greg Palast is with us. We've got a lot of new books in the Infowars.com bookstore. Obviously, Bloodlines of the Illuminati has almost sold out. I helped him do a big printing of them because it was out of print. And that printing is almost sold out. We'll have to reprint, but if you want to get Bloodlines of the Illuminati, not for $300, but $50, because it is the size of the Dallas phone book, it's available at Infowars.com or by calling 888-253-3139, and your purchase makes this broadcast possible. Also, we got contacted by folks a few months ago with some children's books, and I am going to carry them. We now have them. One of them is Cats in Black and the Power of the Microchip, and it teaches kids about all these implantable chips and biometrics and why it's all so dangerous. And it's inexpensive as well. Great color books for your children. So be sure and get that today. Great for homeschoolers and folks. Cats in Black, Infowars.com. We're carrying James Wesley Rawls' Survivors, a novel about the coming collapse. Of course, former Army intelligence predicted in his book more than 19 years ago, the first one, Patriots, the derivatives collapse and everything that happened. But he puts it in a historical/futuristic novel with real people. So an interesting mix. That's available at Infowars.com as well. And it's your purchase of the books, the videos, the materials, like Behind the Green Mask, Agenda 21, at Infowars.com that makes this transmission possible. And we're also, for just another week or two, running the Everything Special, all 18 of my films and a Citizen's Rulebook and bumper stickers and Jason Burmis' film I produced that's excellent, Invisible Empire, Proving the New World Order World Government, for $99. That is 74% off. I mean, that is just nowhere you're going to get a deal like that. And maybe you've already seen the films. This is a great way to give 17, 18 gifts to people that's going to wake them up. I mean, Obama Deception, Fall of the Republic, Police State 4, the Police State Trilogy, 9/11 Road to Tyranny, Terror Storm, Endgame, 9/11 Chronicles. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. America Destroyed by Design, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports Exposed, Visible Empire. That's all available at Infowars.com. And is your purchase of the books, the videos, and everything that supports our transmission. And yes, we're running until the end of the month where you can get a giant discount on a yearly membership. And you can also buy a membership for friends at Prisonplanet.tv. And we have the 15-day free trial also running as you finance and help build the true alternative media news operation. So again, that's all available at Infowars.com or 888-253-3139. You can also write to me at P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas, 78760. We get a lot of complaints. I never give out the P.O. Box. P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas, 78760. And don't forget GregPalast.com to get his excellent book for folks that don't understand how all this criminality works, Vulture's Picnic. Now, let me hit a few headlines. We're going back to Greg Palast. This is big, and I knew it was going to upset the system because they hate the troops. The foreign banks that have hijacked us use the troops, use their heroism, use their honor in these wicked wars that they're sent into because they believe they're defending America. The fact that Ron Paul gets 71 to 75, depending on which month you look at it, the latest numbers are about 72% of all military donations for all Republican candidates and Obama combined. That's on record. Federal Elections Commission. The fact that that's there really freaks out the system. And Adam Kokesh had the idea, and it looks like thousands are going to show up to have active duty and veterans march to the White House. And they said they're going to be peaceful and turn their back, though, on the commander-in-chief, who's a traitor-in-chief and a globalist puppet, the Benedict Arnold. And this is to break the hoax that Ron Paul doesn't have support. In fact, if you show people the article that just went up at Infowars.com, it's got Ron Paul when he was in the Air Force. Leaked email. Military top brass warned troops off march for Ron Paul. Again, leaked email. Military top brass warned troops off march for Ron Paul. That's a good headline, but that's a British writer we've got, and people may not get that classic English. Military top brass tell troops not to march with Ron Paul. We need to change that headline. People aren't going to get kind of old English. Leaked email. Military top brass tell troops not to march with Ron Paul, or not to march for Ron Paul. High importance message distributed by senior naval security. You get me, Nemo, in here right now. Just go ahead and call him in here now. I'm going to get this headline changed. I'm kind of the editor-in-chief around here and unofficial editor. I don't give myself like a title like CEO of Infowars.com or Galactic Commander. I don't actually have a title here. I'm director of my operation, though. And most places, you know, editors go through 3 or 4 levels. Hey, Kurt, come on in. This is great what Steve did. I want to send this to Drudge, but people aren't going to get kind of that old English. Leaked email, military top brass warned troops off march for Ron Paul. Americans aren't going to get that on average. So just saying, unless they, you know, got an English degree. Military top brass, you know, tell troops not to march with Ron Paul or not to march for Ron Paul. Don't you agree? As Infowars editor, let's change that on both sides. Great job, Steve Watson, part of our total transparency program here. Okay, going back to Greg Palast. Greg, what do you make of the media demonization of Ron Paul? What do you make of this headlong march towards war? Why does the system want that? What are you hearing from your inside sources?
Well, it's not so much that it's anti-Paul, that it is pro-billionaire. You've got billionaires behind Santorum, behind Gingrich, many billionaires, a true billionaires club called Restore Our Future behind Romney, and of course behind Obama. So basically it's the pro-billionaire. You get your choice. I mean, unlike Greece, where they told you the banker that would be put in made your president and in the prime minister of Italy, here we get to choose our billionaires' choices. And so that's what's going on. The billionaires have put their boys forward. And in fact, at Vulture's Picnic, one of the things I talk about is, who are these guys? You notice that they keep talking about the avalanche of money for Mitt Romney. Well, where is that avalanche coming from?
I want to talk about, is it 5 or 6?
Yeah.
And Now they're going out when it's the banks that are insolvent through fraud. They've gotten government to sign on to too big to fail by threatening to implode the economy, holding us hostage. And so the very people that are actually the ones that are insolvent are now telling the governments and the people we're insolvent and have their ratings agencies that certify their crud as AAA gold now decertifying and lowering things for governments so they get higher interest rates.
They're literally taking our money at 0.25% to 1% interest and returning and literally picking up 200-300% returns. It is astonishing. It's just a churn of this cash. American banks today went from $2 billion in cash reserve assets in 2007 to nearly $2 trillion today. $2 billion to $2 trillion. They're sitting on cash. Where they get the cash? They got it from you and me. From the percent, you know, it's not that you're being profligate. You're being jacked. It's a crime scene.
Well, no, it's loan sharking, and the IMF World Bank documents that you broke in 2002 was them internally admitting it's predatory, as if we need them to admit it to us. But here is the signed, sealed confession. But expanding on that, what do you make of Moody's, S&P, and others, all financed and run by the big six mega banks, or the big five, as you call them, that, you know, Geithner said, you know, admits he serves.
The open Fed window.
And then they lectured us about how we're lazy scum and they got to turn the street lights off and we got to pay more taxes because we're lazy, and they got to take the police and firemen's pension funds because that's welfare now too. Total bull, and their plan is to bankrupt us. It's amazing. The book is Vulture's Picnic. Excellent. Available at bookstores everywhere, gregpalast.com. I'm going to give the toll-free on them. I mean, how obvious is that?
Well, look at it this way. Do you realize that the Fed window is lending money to the banks at 0.25% interest? The European Central Bank just lent out 2/3 $1 trillion to European banks at 1% interest. They then turn around and invested in government bonds, which are guaranteed by you and me, at 4%, 5%, and 6%. That's a good business. Not investing in housing, not investing in businesses, not investing in building the economy.